We had a little disconnection here. Blessings and greetings and blessings, blessed souls. We're alive because we're blessed to stay alive in the most humane of mundane moments, yet paradoxically configured to eternal existential experiences, if those experiences are connected to the Kedusha or Eternal Torah. We're in the part 7 of the series, Now is the Time to Rejoice, talking inspirations from a Hasidic discourse that was delivered in Tafresh and Zion, which would have corresponded to 1897 at the wedding of the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, delivered by the father of the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rav Shalom Dov Ber of Lubavitch. Delight. What causes us to delight? Well, there are different definitions of what delight is, but the axiomatic teaching from the inner dimensions of Torah, Pnimis Torah, in particular Chabad Hasidus, is to identify that before we identify what type of delight we're delighting in, to understand it's something which comes from a concealed place within ourselves as we relate to delighting in something. I think we might have mentioned in the last presentation the joy of an elderly person attending the wedding of their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren, and before they break out and dance according to his or her ability, the sheer fact that they've arrived at this point in their 70, 80, 90 plus years of living on this blessed earth, that they can come to experience, to see the continuation of all their hard work that they engaged in their earlier, more fertile producing years in terms of their work efforts, their learning and their praying. Not to say a person stops being fertile in their praying, not to say a person stops being fertile at 70, 80, and 90. In a certain way, they can be even more fertile, more productive, but in more elevated fashion. Because most people, when they get to age 70 and on, they stop working and they hopefully engage in other things. They just don't wait to collect their pension check or their social security check every month and just live off that like a, as we call, like a friar, like a poritz, like some sort of noble, but rather engage in educating the youth, the younger generations, of the validity of living a life of Yegias Chapecha, the toiling of the hands. So this delight doesn't come out in a revealed way so much. The person can sense it, and we mentioned before that, again in the previous presentation, that there was a sage by the name of Rabbi Avahu, or Abahu, who when you find a new teaching, his face would become enlightened, even before he would elucidate it to others as an eternal instruction. Just the fact that it was found was a matter of great delight to him. In general, the Rebbe Rashab wants to know that, again, this idea of the revelation of delight can be recognizable on the face of the person who is enjoying that delight, whatever that thing is that he or she is delighting in. Now, also we see when people are in pain and tsar, that it can be recognizable on their face. The tension, the areas below the eyes, and the ruffling of the area above the eyebrows, and having difficulty expressing themselves. This great pain is just the opposite, but it's also an inwardly experienced matter that before they elucidate, it's recognizable that the person has tsar. I mean, if a person ever hears news, we shouldn't hear bad news, but we hear the news of the passing of a loved one or a friend or an associate we knew for many years. Suddenly we just hear that they passed on. The clenching of the teeth. But at the same time, too, when we hear good news, as last night I heard the good news of one of my good friends in the famous Frankel Shul in Kesser Crown Heights is making Aliyah, returning to his homeland in the land of Israel. It also pained me because I really enjoy praying and talking Torah with this person, but I'm rejoicing for him and his family that they're able to do so. That joy is something that is recognizable in the face, but it doesn't necessarily cause the person to break out with the celebratory raising of the hands and dancing, moving around this way and that way. Again, I want to remind everyone that I'm being very repetitive. Just as you go to an exercise class and you're doing your jumping jacks before you get in your full routine of whatever you exercise, engage in, or those stretching exercises to stretch the legs, to stretch the area above the torso, the neck. We have to constantly be aware of the fact that repetition of these ideas, which is basically what a lot of this mimer does, and the nuances come at us kind of like a fastball at 100 miles an hour. So we should be prepared for the nuances that will be revealed by just constantly chewing over these matters. Just as we constantly, as I mentioned before, we constantly appreciate the constant heartbeat within our chest and the constant beautiful experience of being able to breathe properly, or the constant taken too lightly by many people, the fact that we can ambulate, go from point A to point B under our own power with the blessings of the Most High. So again, joy is something which is outward, but oneg, delight, thinking about what it means to you from within, whether it be on the spot, recognizing this is a delightful thing, and hopefully it should be a matter of holiness. In the physical, on Shabbos, you delight in a certain type of food. Whether which way is not necessarily an outward expression. And when a person is experiencing, this type of oneg, then it has the potentiality to illuminate into that person's faculty of right brain processing, into the person's faculty of wisdom, into the moach chokhmah. But still, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out as an outward expression of joy, which is joy or simcha is an expression of when a person is experiencing joy, he or she should not be able to restrain themselves, and they should be able to break out and express it. They're their blessed levushim of thought, speech, and action. There we see where when you see a person who is exuberant, it's quite obvious they just were lucky to chance upon that experience of feeling good, but something they had been working on, or something came as an unexpected surprise to him or her, but they grasp the moment, they grasp the experience, and bring and elaborate out that experience that they've just grasped from the perception of their right brain thinking, their moich chokhmah, their brain of wisdom, which was a transmission ultimately from the level of oneg shebenefesh, the delight within the soul, and they bring it out. We're going to conclude with just saying that delight is something primarily intended for the individual, because it doesn't necessarily get transmitted outwardly to someone else. The essence of this feeling of delight is that a person can sense the essence of tranquility, which is a very important point, which so many people are lacking in this world right now. So many souls wandering around the world, lacking tranquility, lacking delight, lacking pristine perceptions of the wisdom of godliness, instead just being shuffled along in the mainstream brainwashing, I would say brain dirtying, of normative human intellect, which by itself really has no value unless it's imbued with seichel eloki, godly intellect. Although human intellect is something which is a created entity, it must be fused, just as a child must be fused with a sense of reacting and respecting others, not just going on in one's babyish ways from the time one is born. The time it gets to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and 7, and on and on and on. Obviously, a cooperative member of whatever community, society, or nation they are a part of. So again, this delight is something which is only for oneself. The essence of it is to bring us to a state of tranquility, an inner tranquility, that it exalts us, that we are uplifted from our mundanities. And it's something which rests and it leaves us in a state of quietude within our place. But joy is the idea of being moved and a lack of menucha. So therefore we understand that oneg is higher than simcha, not better, it's just higher. Just as, you have a championship team, say any professional sport. The tallest member of the team might not necessarily be the biggest person on the team. The smallest person on the team might be the best player on the team, but they all work towards one goal. So that which is higher than simcha, that which is higher than the left brain processing experience, moyach bina, and moyach chochma, right brain processing, they are ultimately talmidim of onek shebenefesh, delights of the soul, which is a state of tranquility, state of quietude. But from there jettisons out a perception which should be grasped by the moyach of wisdom, the moyach chochma, right brain perception, the creative thinking mode of the human being, and then can be grasped by the left side of the person's cognitive faculties, and that's where there's the outward expression. So may we continue to constantly just review these concepts. I know it sounds repetitive, but those who are Bali Simcha, masters of joy, understand this very well. The tzaddikim, the very righteous souls of our creation, who are constantly happy, and the sign of that is that they're constantly making other people happy. So may we merit to be in the portion of those who are learning from the teachings of the tzaddikim, in a way of ahava chad, one love, gor chad, one destiny, kulan of all of us, but darkinam darki shalom, in pleasant and peaceful way, lahamshik bezeh shem yisparek, to be continuing with the brachos of the Most High. And it is my duty and my responsibility to remind everyone, I've got to be good, you've got to be good, we've all got to be good, because ateva tov lehitiv, it is the nature of the good to do good, and the Creator is the source of our goodness, waits so patiently for us to do good, to make this place a fitting abode for the revelation, our righteous Messiah, roar out Torah Charasha, who roar out a new dimension of Torah, which is not even revealed to the likes of the greatest tzaddikim, the greatest righteous souls of ancient days to our modern days. To be continued. And ending off with a segue ending smile.